To create a project, you just click on the Add button here, and you can name it whatever you want. And then you'll see it's added in there. You can see it's added in here. Manage phases. When you have a project, you can have different phases. For example, you're doing a construction project, planning phase, and then you've got foundation phase and framing and roofing and different kind of phases. Film production project, it'll be different phases for that. If you have holidays, you put those in here. You put the start date of the project here and the ship to address. Say, for example, a construction site, you'd put the construction site address here. A little bit about these templates. It comes with built-in templates. We'll choose this one, for example. We'll click Import Template. It'll give you a warning. Had added tasks previously. Those would be overwritten. It's letting you know that. So you can hit OK. Okay, so it imported the template. So now we're going to go over to the Gantt chart. This is what the example template looks like. This has 4 different relationships that you can have as predecessors. The 4 different types of relationship are finish to start, start to start, finish to finish, and start to finish. Now, this is red because this is the critical path. The short answer is that any increase of a task along that path will increase the end date. For example, if you increase the duration here, this would not increase the end date, so this one is not on the critical path. That's why it's not red. So finish to start, meaning it means that you're going to finish this task before you start the next one. And then you've got a finish to finish relationship. That's what you see here on this one. So let's talk a little bit about this format here. So I'm actually going to show a few more. I'm going to show the actions and phase, hit apply. You'll see those columns appear here. Let's also mention the start to finish. So here is the start to finish relationship. That means that you have to start this task before you can finish this task. And then you've got start to start, means that you have to start this task before you can start this task. So that's how these are related. So that's the 4 main predecessor types that you can add in. You control those here in this column. Rename the tasks, whatever you like. Then you've got the start and end dates. These will be calculated automatically based on the durations and the lead and lag times. You can add multiple predecessors if you like. Come up top here and let's just look. Here's, the Gantt chart. Here's the project that you're on. This is what you selected over in this tab over here. Here's the start date. That's what you also set that over in this tab. You can edit it. This will bring you over to that tab so you can edit the start date. Here's the end date based on all the durations and relationship. The work week. So you can see it's shaded based on the work week that you've got selected here. We have a 5-day work week. You can also change it to 6 days. You can see that it'll shade on working day. You can move it to 7 days as well. It'll change all the end dates and everything. We'll switch it back to 5 now. If you want to add a task, you can name this whatever you want. We'll move it up. We'll give this a predecessor we'll use this as a predecessor. So we'll use task 4. We'll give it a finish to start. We'll confirm it, and you'll see that is now using task 4 as its predecessor. We'll also make this a predecessor. We will come back over here and we'll add task 3 to that. And we'll also make it a finish to start relationship. You can now see that it's taken both of these as predecessors. Now, you'll notice something. This is a little different than most Gantt charts that you see. A lot of times you'll see arrows going into the middle. Coming out of the predecessor, it's a circle at the bottom right-hand corner, and then it comes down to the dependent. It enters at the top left corner, and it's a diamond. So it makes it very clear whether this is coming from or going to the bar, whether it's a predecessor, whether it's dependent. If we set a baseline schedule, you would set it here. You click it. Then if you show it, the baseline shows up in gray. I haven't set any actual dates yet. That's why those are not shown, but those will show up whenever we start showing those. Those will be green bars. And we'll get to that in a moment. Let's talk a bit about the constraints. Let's just add a new task in here. Okay, so we add a new task. Let's call it example constraint. Now for this one, we're going to set the constraint that it must start on March 11th. March 11th. Okay, so now you can see that that's what's happening here. It's going to start right there at that date. If you leave it at the default of as soon as possible, it will just simply take the relationships that you set up in here. If it has no predecessors, it just goes back to the start date. Now resources, this is a powerful tool here. So this is where you can resource load certain tasks. Let me show you now how you can add resources so that you can use them on projects. So you go over to the resources tab and say now we want to add a resource. Now a resource can be either an employee, equipment, a subcontractor, vendor, or material. In this case, let's set up a new piece of equipment. And then you'll add a description, model key. Okay, so you add that in here. Let's add in a cement mixer as well. We just added in equipment, but you can add in, employees if you want. So now we'll go back to the Gantt chart. Example multi-predecessor task that we had here. Let's add a resource here. Let's use the crane. Let's assign that to this task and confirm. We'll move now to the calendar. You'll be able to see all the projects that you load in here. Now, this is basically a calendar view of what is seen on the Gantt chart. This is showing all of the tasks that we had from project 2. That's what you're seeing here. Let me click on this and you can see. So you've got the project 1 here. You've got project 2. It's showing all the tasks that need to be done for that day. Now, let's filter by only the resources. The crane that we added. So let's filter by that. We only assigned it to one task, and here it is. It's the example multi-predecessor task. Now that becomes useful if you've got limited resources. For example, you have only a certain number of a piece of equipment and you need to use it on 17 different projects, and each of them are using that equipment at different times, and you need to make sure that piece of equipment is not being overutilized or scheduled 5 times to be used in one day. So this will help you to see where that piece of equipment is being used and how much it's being used. You can do this with employees to assign their schedules, vendors and subcontractors to let them know when you're going to need them, what days. You can see a more detailed report if you need to over here. The schedule tracker. Say for example that you completed this task March 10th, okay, and then it went to the 14th. This will show you the actual duration that you took, the slippage that you had from the start and end. We'll move this now to 100% since we're saying it's complete. Let's also say that this task right here is 50% complete. I'll go back to the project dashboard real quick and you'll see the percent complete here. I'll go back to the schedule tracker. Now I will also go to the Gantt chart so you can see this now showing up 310 to 314. Now we'll show the baseline and actual and you'll see 310 to 314. Okay. This is where you would set your budget for each task. Now we've got our original budget in here and then we've got approved change amounts. Let's do an example for this one. Let's do a change order. So say that on project number 2, we'll add in the client. But for selecting a task, let's add in the example multi-predecessor. And add the change order. So now we have this change order in here. Now, if we wanted to see what it looks like, you'd click here. Your logo as well would show up here whenever you add it on the accounts page. You see the ship to address. Let's go back over here. Let's provide a ship to address. So when we come back over to the change order now and we hit the PDF again, you'll see that now that's where that information comes to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a second tab here. Okay, so we've got the change order and the financial overview side by side here. And so whenever we change the status of the line item to approved, then whenever we come over to the other side here, we'll see that the updated change amount here is going to change to $5 now. So let me refresh the page so that we can see that. Okay, so I just refreshed. Now you can see that it updates whenever the status is changed to approved. Now there is a portal for the client to log into and review this change order, which is this. They'll see the same PDF and they can review it, approve it, decline it. But if they do approve it, then it does update here. The option is also here for you as the user to change this to approved as well, because some clients aren't going to want to use that portal. They'll want to use verbal, that kind of thing. So this is where you would do that. So here's the line for the current budget. So this just takes the original budget plus the approved change amount and sums them. Now for the actual cost, we will need to go to, and the committed cost, we'll need to go to a different tab here so you can see where those are coming from. So let's go over to the purchase order. So I'm only going to do a purchase order, but it'll work similarly for a subcontract. I won't show an invoice either, but that works similar as well when you are sending bills to the client. It's similar to the change order. For now, we'll do a purchase order. Before we do this, let's actually go back and add in term and conditions so that you can kind of see what these are. Terms and conditions. You'll add that. let's also add in a specification. You can add more labor, add more material specifications. Now we'll just add this in. Then we'll go back over now to the purchase order so you can see how these are applied. So we'll add the same project, same vendor. Now for the terms and conditions, we'll select this one. If you had many in here, all of them would appear there. You could select the appropriate one. So we'll select this one, save it. And then we want to select the lumber oak 2x4 here. You know, you could add in many specifications. You select the one that it applies to that you're adding. And then you can also add in which task it goes to. So if you had, for example, a construction setup here and you had a task in for framing, you could add that as the task. In this case, let's use the same multi-predecessor task so you can see how these work together. So we'll do that and we'll add that item in there. And then we'll add this purchase order. Now what we'll do is we will know that this one corresponds to the same example multi-predecessor task here. So when we change the status from draft to issued, we should see the amount committed change. So I will hit refresh. We'll come back down and we'll see that the $2 is talking about total unit price here. Okay, and then if we switched it to paid, then it would switch from this column to that column. The forecast cost would be, let's say that you thought it was going to be $110 instead of $105. You can see how the variance would then recalculate. The percentage complete, you remember where this came from earlier, that 100%, when we plugged that in earlier, the 50%, that's where those are coming in. For the earned value, you can see how these are calculated where it says, okay, well, you finished 100%, so you've got 100% earned value. CPI is earned value over actual, so you can see that there's no actual for this one, that's why this is NA. So that's a brief introduction to the financial overview. These are then the same information just compiled at a WBS level. Manage, so you've got daily log where you can go in and add in certain things about what happened during the day. You've got a time tracker where you can go in and add, employees can. I'm logged in as an admin, so it doesn't give me the option. Employees can add in time here, which will then also be reflected in the financial sheet if it's associated with a task. You can add in checklists and then apply those checklists to several projects. WBS you can create. When you select a template and import a template, it comes with a WBS. You can change it to whatever you like. Tasks that I added, those don't have a WBS onto them. You can assign one. You can just select one here and then assign it. Let's show that. So say it's here and then assign that and it'll assign it there. Your WBS, what you have assigned so far and created, they'll show up here in this list. You can create another one if you like. You can select a parent if that's applicable, or you can leave it blank and create like a whole new one, like for example 2.0. Give it a name that shows up here in this column, give it a description that's here, and then you click add and it shows up in this here. And then once it's here, you can use it to then assign it to the tasks. As the license holder or any admin, you can actually create another admin that can do this as well for you. They can go in and create employees, clients, vendors, subcontractors, add in all your teammates, add in all their information in here. That's where applicable users would be added on this page. Subs and vendors portal, this is where your subs or your vendors would log in and see what the purchase order or subcontract is assigned to them. Client portal, client would log in and view change orders. In another video, I'll go in a little more detail about this and log in as a client and show what they would see from their end and review the change order, decline it, approve it. The bids, this is very similar to the other tabs that you've seen, but this is where you would create bids, produce the PDFs that we saw, so you can give those to prospective clients. For the forecast cost, you remember the $110 that I plugged in? Well, it sums up that whole column and it adds it in here. It sums up current budget, puts it in here. Percent complete is where it comes up with the percentage complete for the whole project. Good job making it through this whole video. I know that was a lot of information. Try it yourself for free with a no-risk 14-day trial.